Well, I heard about him before I met him. I was in Safeway and met a mother that I'd had her children years earlier when I was teaching at Emerson, and she said the best teacher over at Davis High School was Jim O'Keefe, and that she was so happy that both of her children had Jim before he retired. And then she went on about what a great guy he was.
I loved Mr. O'Keefe. I mean, it was a challenging subject, definitely, but he made it pretty fun and was always really helpful. I remember he would have us come in early before class at like, I don't know, 7 o'clock or 6:45 in the morning to do like extra math if we needed help, and would take lots of time during class to sit down with us, and always created a fun environment in class. Everyone loved coming to his class.
Well, he was always pleasant. He came to school very early, and I preferred to come later. So we crossed paths in the middle of the day more often than not. And he was always good-natured, had a joke, just a very, very nice person, a nice colleague to have, someone I was proud to have as my colleague.
He always remembered every student's name, even these funny nicknames he would come up with the students. He never missed a beat with his personal connections with the students, and you could tell that they just loved him. And particularly when I would sub for his class on a couple occasions, just the amount of respect that his students had for him and the love, it was really just permeated the classroom experience, and that's something I think that I'll work my entire life to try and incorporate into my own teaching.
The first day that Mr. O'Keefe called roll, he pronounced my name Chelsea Riley. It's pronounced Chelsea, and I don't know if I didn't correct him. I mean, he has to know how my name was pronounced because everyone else in class called me Chelsea. But the entire year, Mr. O'Keefe called me Chelsea.
You prepared very carefully. I remember one of my students, when Jim was getting ready to teach a course that he hadn't taught before, the preceding year, he worked with that particular student who wanted to study it on her own. And so he spent the whole year working with her on that particular course and preparing himself. So he prepared very, very well. I'm sure he always came to school well prepared, and that things were always moving in his classroom. There wasn't a case where the teacher was sitting up at the desk and the students were doing what they wanted. He ran a tight ship, but in a very pleasant way.
My favorite story is that because he was in my room when I was teaching, and then after I finished lecture I would go around and help students, and he would be working on grading his papers because he graded everybody's paper himself. He did not have someone read it, and so he'd be up there grading, and he would see that somebody needed help, and he would get up and go help all of my students in my classroom. Why? Because I couldn't get to everybody, and he just wanted everybody to learn mathematics, and he loved kids and he loved math, and so he wanted everybody to have an opportunity to learn the material, and he just couldn't make himself quit. He always wanted to be teaching.
He really wasn't very lecture heavy. I would say he would teach kind of the fundamentals that the students needed to know in the beginning of the period, and the period was really dominated with the students working with each other and on their math, and he would just wander from desk to desk. And I really think that the way to learn is to try and practice, and so opening your classroom up to being the venue for practice versus just where you receive information and then you go off home.
Mr. O'Keefe taught his students how to learn, how to take the time to really go through your work thoroughly and get things right, and I have definitely applied that to my college experience as well.
Getting to know Jim and watching him teach was definitely not only inspirational to me, but something that I always remember fondly.
Mrs. O'Keefe, your father was wonderful, and I feel so blessed to have had both of you at Davis High School. You made my experience there just wonderful. So thank you.
Well, to the O'Keefe family, especially Sarah O'Keefe, who's my best friend, it was an opportunity of a lifetime to have him as one of my very good friends, and we're lucky to have him as a dad. And all the kids in Davis, I know, appreciated having him. And I think this is a great tribute to a very great man.